It's shocking when you think that your bank doesn't actually know where you're spending your money. Like when you pull up your app or maybe your online portal, depending on who you bank with, like sometimes that data you get where it's a description, it's like a jumble of characters, that's all the bank knows too. Banks are relying on literally data infrastructure from the 1960s. Like this is bits and bytes being moved by Visa and MasterCard and all the merchants. And it's, it was shocking to me. And I realized that like, if you look at how big the card market is and you look at how big of a problem it is and all of the individual issues it creates for consumers and businesses and the people who like the downstream of the banks, for me, it was just like, if I was going to start another company, I wanted to tackle a massive issue. And Spade fundamentally felt like an opportunity to do that.
What are some of the initial steps that you took to go down this route, realizing that this was like an issue in your own day-to-day life and then turning that into like a full-fledged business? There must have been so many steps along the way. So what were some of the initial ones that you kind of embarked on?
I wish there was like a scientific method to this, but I think I would be lying if I said there was. It was really just a slew of conversations with other really smart people who were trying to solve a problem. And I called up one of my co-founders, Cooper, who's a good friend of mine from high school, who's a software engineer. And I gave him a call and was like, hey, how hard would it be to build an API that takes in these like strings of data from banks and gives them a logo? And that's all it was. He was like, oh, that sounds like a weekend project. I'll just do it, because he also was underemployed at the time, I guess would be the way to say it. That it just got spun up. And then I was just messaging people on LinkedIn, my contacts, just like, hey, you want logos on transactions? Like we weren't even an incorporated business. We were just like two guys sort of giving something a shot. And at that point, I think it was just about seeing how much demand there was. I think whenever you put something in the market, you're going to pretty quickly feel some type of demand, whether it be a lot or very little. And for us, it was just like, oh, there's a lot of people who want this very simple thing. And as you talk to your customers, you're going to hear more. They're going to say, hey, like, what if instead of just a logo, there was an address and a phone number and all this other information, and sort of just snowballed into what would become Spade. I wish it was like I knew from the start, but I think even right before I was raising my pre-seed, I wasn't convinced there was a whole business there. I actually had to get on a call with a founder of a much larger company, and I was sort of talking about what we did. And I actually said, I remember super clearly, I was like, yeah, but you guys have already solved that problem, so I'm not sure what I really want to do with this. And he's like, no, that's a problem for us too. And they were a unicorn, they had over $1 billion valuation, 400 plus people, like very big company. And I think that was sort of the moment where I was like, oh, I had assumed that this was a problem for really small businesses, but not big businesses. And I think it was actually the opposite, where larger companies actually have a much bigger problem. And that's really sort of the path we've gone on since